Using fetus is nothing more than a cope for what you know it is. It's a baby, right? So it's just
obviously not if we're here debating it. I don't think it's as settled as
you don't have to use the word fetus. It makes people feel better. It's obviously a baby.
No, I mean, obviously you wouldn't take like, you know,
Charlie Kirk destroys decadent abortionists with facts and logic. What up, everybody? We're going to see quite a good video in exchange with Charlie Kirk talking to, unfortunately, some people in our society who very much are, let's just say, affected by the modern secular leftist values. So we're gonna get right into that, guys. It's gonna be a good video, but first, everybody, please make sure you like our video, share it, and subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel. Why subscribe? Because if you want us to keep bringing you these awesome videos, well, we need your support. That's how we can keep doing it. So please, guys, please go ahead and subscribe. We really appreciate it. All right, let's jump into the video.
Let me ask you this. If you knew for certain the baby, would you agree it's a baby? Is that a good term to use if it's in a womb? Is that a baby?
I think most people would say fetus.
Probably fetus, yeah.
Okay, so what does fetus mean in Latin?
I think a fetus is a growing child. It's a developing
you're right,
child.
Molly. You know it means a little human.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's just using fetus is nothing more than a cope for what you know it is. It's a baby, right? So it's just
obviously not if we're here debating it. I don't think it's as settled as
you don't have to use the word fetus. It makes people feel better. It's obviously a baby.
No, I mean, obviously you wouldn't take like, you know,
She says, obviously, it's not a baby if we weren't debating it. You ever heard of being wrong? Yeah, you're wrong. Simple as that.
fetus that just has like a heart and like their brain isn't fully formed and be like, that's the same as like a 1 month old.
Yeah.
Like we obviously see differences between development from then and there.
So, but then how about 30 weeks?
That's where it becomes a lot more contentious. But the point being is that we don't look at a fetus from its beginning stages and be like, yeah, that's the same thing as my like 3-month-old cousin.
Hold on, that's a 9-month-old is not the same thing as a 1-month-old.
Okay,
right? So you can go through the progression of development continues. The question is, when does it start?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. I agree with that.
So
do you think conception?
Of course. That's the only answer.
Most women, I don't believe, even know that they're pregnant before 6 weeks.
But,
so like around like the heartbeats and stuff like that.
The knowledge of your pregnancy doesn't mean that you're not pregnant.
No. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying like practicality wise, there are many instances of women who have miscarriages without even ever knowing, because it might just present as like a very heavy cycle that month.
That's fine, but it doesn't make it any less a life, right? Sure, go ahead, Molly.
No, but would you mourn that miscarriage in the same way you mourn like
100%,
an abortion, like a conscious
not the same
choice?
way. No, it's not the same way. No, but it's still a tragedy. A miscarriage is a tragedy, but an abortion.
Even if she doesn't know.
It's not the same way that you mourn it, because one's an intentional killing of the baby. The other one is a tragedy that, and oftentimes there was no control over. Of course you don't mourn it the same way. Very odd question to ask. Some kind of contrived attempt to show that Charlie is a moral hypocrite, I suppose, but it just doesn't make any sense.
But an abortion is an act of human will. A miscarriage most times is not. Now, sometimes it can be a miscarriage because you drank alcohol and you didn't know you were pregnant, or you might have taken a drug that have side effects. But yes, a miscarriage is a tragedy. Yes.
I have a question. So do you care about the children once they're born?
I mean, I care a lot about them. Yeah.
So if say a woman got R-worded or something, or even if she just got pregnant and
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $200.
Right?
Life is not subjective, and we know this because you were speaking of why is it so easy for you ladies to kill kids? If your comfort and lifestyle more important than a life you created.
Anyway, my question was, what was I saying? Oh, if
you were saying if someone forced sex upon themselves, it's the word you're
even like not even just that, but say like if the mother like was homeless or something, say like she didn't have a good life, do you still think that child deserves to be brought into the world just to suffer?
So it's not a guarantee of suffering, number one. One sec. The answer is yes, the life should be brought into the world. There are twice as many people on the adoption waiting list.
There's so many people.
Well, let me ask you guys, and I'm just curious, how many abortions do you think there are a year in America?
Let me preface this statement by saying I'm not necessarily saying this girl is a bad person. She might just be misguided. But that mentality she's pushing is a very wicked and evil thing. She's basically saying, well, if you're born poor or if you're gonna have suffering in life, well, then your life's not worth living. You might as well just die instead, and that you're better off dead instead of ever having that chance to live a fruitful and successful life. That's crazy. That is some super backwards and decadent morals. It's so sad that people today would even seriously argue that as some kind of compelling argument to support abortion, which is killing babies, by the way. There's no way you can slice and dice that, whether you support it or not. That is what we're talking about here. It's almost a eugenics argument. Think about this. There's a podcast called Freakonomics that many people like. It's heralded among many leftists as this great academic, brilliant podcast. This podcast is led by a New York Times journalist as well as an economist with University of Chicago. You know, the smart people in our society. Anyways, they very famously have an episode about Roe v. Wade where they argued that Roe v. Wade being put into place lowered the crime rate in the United States. Essentially, they're arguing that because we abort more babies, black babies namely, because black women are the #1 per capita group to receive abortions in the United States, because we aborted more black babies, the crime dropped. That's a eugenics argument, and that's what Freakonomics, a left-wing podcast, argues. Very similarly, we just saw that girl saying, well, if they're poor, then they don't deserve to live, or that they shouldn't have to live. That was her argument. Wicked, wicked, wicked. Totally morally bankrupt.
Tens of thousands, I assume.
Any other guesses?
More than tens of thousands.
What if I told you there was over 1 million abortions every year?
Yep.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
But you went from tens of thousands to 1 million.
I mean, there's billions of people on the
No. Yeah, there's 340 million in America. That's right. No, but do you think...
As far as like reported ones, because even just reported data is going to be incomplete
that
because...
doesn't count mifepristone, which is the chemical abortion that people have at home. It doesn't count Plan B, right? So,
and even if like abortion were illegal, for example, we stopped gathering data on like who procures abortions, there would be so many. There's so many now, even where states where it's still legal.
Texas, it's gone down dramatically. So hundreds of thousands.
No, they're still happening. It's just
they're happening,
not being accounted for.
About 90% abortion.
Women are just doing it to themselves.
Right. It's a 90% abortion reduction rate in Texas. I don't want to dwell on that too much, though. So there's 1 million abortions every single year. And there's twice as many people on the there's 2 million people actively on the adoption waiting list. So there's really no such thing currently, there could be, but currently, of an unwanted child. So there's two.
In addition to Texas having that severe drop in abortion rates after passing legislation to limit the act, just look at when Roe v. Wade was passed in the 1970s. Abortion skyrocketed after that. It wasn't even close. Abortions were exceedingly rare in the United States prior to Roe v. Wade. Come the 70s, Roe v. Wade comes, it goes up. Come the 90s, it just went up and up and up, and it didn't stop. So this idea that people are just gonna have abortions anyways if it gets banned, it's not really true. The numbers don't bear that out. Will some do it inevitably? Yes. Obviously, that's the case with many things. If you want examples of this, you can liken it to drugs. For example, look at recreational marijuana legalization in the United States. Far more Americans consume marijuana than ever before. It's not even close. No one can seriously argue that laws don't limit people from doing things. They do. Will some people break them? Yes, absolutely, but most won't.
People wanting to adopt, and there's 1 million people that have abortions every single year. So there's twice as many people that want to get a child. Now, there's a longer conversation about making it less bureaucratic without allowing bad people to adopt kids for bad reasons. I'm perfectly open for that conversation. But to answer your question, I don't love the premise. It's a really good question because a lot of people have it. I don't necessarily believe being born in poverty is a death sentence or is a reason to terminate.
Of course not.
No, but abortion is a death sentence. So I don't think poverty should give you a death sentence.
Would you say abortion is murder?
Oh, of course, 100%.
Do you think that people who procure abortions, women specifically,
Yes.
a woman who procures an abortion should go to jail for getting one?
Absolutely, yeah. They're the moral equivalent of Auschwitz.
Really?
Yes.
Millions of women are
not the
basically
women.
the same as like Nazi
Not the women.
death
No,
camp
the
guards.
women are victims. They're lied to. 90% of women do not see an ultrasound before they have an abortion. They have no idea what's happened to them. They're the victims here. It is the abortionists that are doing this. But let me ask you, and I mean this, have you guys ever seen an abortion on a video?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. If women are the victims here, why should they be jailed?
Well, I don't believe they should be jailed. I think
just said they should be
abortionists.
How is it that
the
you
abortionists,
can believe that
the
abortion
doctors-
is murder, but a murderer shouldn't go to jail?
I didn't say that. The doctors, the abortionists, the people that call themselves doctors, the people that put women under general anesthesia and go into...
But
women do, they ask for
They are
it.
doctors. They're medical.
Are you going to just discount the accountability of the woman in that
My current perspective is because the women are not given what is called informed consent, that the women should not be penalized. They should not be, they shouldn't be penalized. In fact, they should be given grace from a system that has lied to them and has misled them. They are not given the full picture of exactly what's happening to them. Informed consent has not happened. So these women are the victims.
How about we take a quick look at what a fetus looks like in the first trimester, right? So this is where the vast majority of abortions happen, as pro-choicers will often say, in order to justify the killing of a baby. Let's look at what this fetus looks like. This right here is the NHS website. That is the National Health Services of the United Kingdom. It's a government website. Unlike in America, it seems the government of the United Kingdom actually tries to honestly explain what a baby looks like when in the womb. Look at this right here. That's week 8. It's very much first trimester. The baby still has a month in that first trimester left. There's a head, there are eyes, fingers, toes. It's all developing. It's very much a human person. It's very obvious to anyone who actually looks at it and is honest about it. We can go down a little more here and see, look, week 9. The fingers and toes are even more apparent. The head is more apparent. The face is more apparent. There are ears. Week 10, same thing. This is still the first trimester, guys. A lot of these pro-choicers will justify this egregious killing of a baby by saying, well, you know, it's the first trimester, so it's okay. And the vast majority are first trimester anyways. First of all, if you say vast majority, you're still indicating that there's an immoral thing happening in a minority of cases, which does not make it morally right. But that aside, we just looked at some pictures of a first trimester baby. That's very obviously a human person. Doesn't matter if they're week 10 or week 20. It's still a horrible thing.
One second. The abortionists are the ones that know exactly what's happening. And if you haven't seen a video of an abortion, I'm not going to say anything too graphic. It is one of the hardest things to watch. The baby fights, the baby struggles, the baby dodges, the baby avoids. They break the neck of the baby. They euthanize it to the spring. It's not a joke.
Sorry.
And then they tear it limb from limb through there. If you're trying to tell me that's,
That's like a.
If you're talking about,
I don't know if you noticed right there, Charlie said it's not a joke because that girl was just sitting there laughing and giggling at the idea of a baby's, or at least while Charlie was talking about how a baby's skull is getting crushed and whatnot during an abortion by these wicked so-called doctors who do it. Isn't that such a gross attitude people have? I'll pray for her and I'll pray for our nation as well. Additionally, I encourage everybody here to watch a video of a baby being aborted. Just take a look and see what it's like. And believe me, it's gut-wrenching, it's horrible, it's hard to watch, but it's very important to know just what's going on and what's happening, especially if you haven't seen it before. I can speak from personal experience. I was in public school and we had this thing called sex ed, right? One of the things they made a point to show us during my time there was what childbirth looked like, a very graphic video, and they showed it to all the students. You know what they didn't show us? What an abortion looks like, what it looks like for a doctor to kill a baby while it's in its mother's womb. Why didn't they show us that? Why would they show us the miracle of childbirth and talk about abortion and contraception and all these other things to us, but they don't actually show us what an abortion is? My take, it's propaganda. I firmly believe that if we actually showed both sides of the issue in the public school system, we'd have a lot more pro-life Americans. Many Americans, including most of the most voracious and vicious pro-choicers, have no idea what an abortion is or what it looks like. How are they supposed to have an informed opinion on the matter when they don't even know what it is? So check it out.
yeah, like they're called dilation and extraction abortions.
No.
Then yes,
Hold on a second.
Like that. But if you're talking
a baby
about,
has a backbone at 6 weeks and a spine. It has a complete figure. It's small. It's like probably as small
the
as
size of like a grape, yeah.
Yes, but by 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and you're talking about.
But the vast majority of abortions are performed in the first trimester.
Yeah, that's right.
So when
And
you just
so when
the type of
is-
abortion that you describe
trimester
is
was up to
literally
12
the
weeks.
like minority
Hold
of
on
the
a
time,
second.
and those are wanted pregnancies
You
because
said they
usually
don't-
those women want those pregnancies. They weren't able
They
to
don't
carry
know
them
they're
to term
pregnant till they're 6 weeks,
because
to your point.
they weren't able to carry those children to term because of health risks to their own life or to the infants.
Right. So without getting into that, no infant should be terminated because of health risk to the infant. Okay, that's insane. It's like you're going to kill the baby because the baby has health risks. That
Not
doesn't-
just health risks. These are deformed, like
Oh, let me ask you.
these
should-
are medical.
Hold on. Down syndrome.
like
Should we
stillbirths
abort
or-
Down syndrome kids?
No.
No.
Iceland has. They said if you have Down syndrome, you're done. So that's not a new phenomenon. They have gotten rid of Down syndrome. If you have a DNA test of Down syndrome, they abort the kid. I think that's cruel and unusual.
That is.
Yeah.
Okay, we agree. Good.
I think there are frivolous reasons to procure abortions, but I don't believe that just because there are frivolous reasons to get them, that means it should be outlawed.
But should murder be outlawed?
Yeah. But like you were saying,
Then
you even though you believe that those women have a hand in committing the murder and infanticide
They
basically
don't-
of their own children, they
They
shouldn't go to
don't
jail.
believe they have not been given informed consent.
Do
They
you
don't
have
know
that
what's
opinion
happening
with
to them.
people who are addicted to drugs? Do you think only drug dealers should go to jail, but not
Well,
people who actually try to buy drugs and
Well,
consume them?
It depends what drug it.
All right, guys, we had to cut off the clip. Unfortunately, it just gets way too in the weeds and it goes long and long, but you can definitely check out the rest of it if you'd like. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think it's very obvious that we have a morally decaying culture. Thankfully, we have Charlie Kirk and other freedom warriors here to come fight the good fight and say what needs to be said. Everybody, please comment below. Let us know what you liked, what you want to see in the future. We'll see you all again soon. Thanks, and God bless.